I will close down my Outlook so it stops making a noise. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we are meeting on today and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. If I could just ask everybody to put themselves on mute just for a minute or two, thanks. And I'll go through some housekeeping in a moment. I'd like to welcome all members and guests of the RegTech Association who've joined us today. We actually have 24 countries represented, which is absolutely awesome. But I did want to take a moment to acknowledge all of the people that have joined us from all around the world who are in various stages of lockdown. And we wanted to acknowledge that and recognise that these are trying times for everybody, but we are there in spirit wherever you are. And if there's anything you need from us, please don't hesitate to reach out. Look, we've had really strong interest in the program today from the buyer base, which is always very important. We've got representatives here from financial services, but also from some sectors outside of financial services, including energy, gaming, government, and a very strong contingent of investors. So thank you to all those people for being here and supporting us. We commenced these RegTech Edge programs in 2019, and this format has continued to flourish since then, and in particular in this And my general call out, if you are a regulated firm on the line today and you'd like to learn more about how we could do this for you on a private in-house basis, please do reach out. Today's program is the first in a series that we've aligned along the lines of our risks as denoted by our RegTech taxonomy. And over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see more of these RegTech Edge No Borders programs rolling out along the other risk areas. And we'll also have our very popular RegTech 101 and our burning platform programs. But very exciting as well, in next week, we kick off with an investor series, and that will be a showcase of investors who are interested in RegTech and who will be presenting their funds. And then the following week, we'll have a presentation from a successful tech founder who has just sold his business for $100 million US, and he wants to share his journey from startup to exit. But to the program for today. Firstly, I'd like to introduce Will Liang from KPMG. Many of you will know Will. He plays this MC role for us on a regular basis, so we thank Will for being here today. And Will is KPMG's Australian RegTech leader. Today, he's going to help us set the pace and introduce our RegTechs one by one, keeping them on time and facilitate any questions from the audience. I wanted to take a moment to welcome and acknowledge Fund Apps, SureStep, Product Cloud, APX, and Visor. Thank you very much. It's with your support that the association is able to run these programs, and our aim is to showcase your capabilities and provide connection for you out there into the buyer land. And remember that only RegTech Association members can present at these programs. Today, we're going to get a RegTech snapshot of automation, end-to-end GRC, centralised product management, digital regulations, and regulatory data solutions. So just before I hand to Will, just a few housekeeping things, if you wouldn't mind. If everybody could remain on mute, bar either the MC or the person presenting. And what we might ask everybody to do is turn their cameras off in the event that it just helps preserve the bandwidth. The Q&A will be done via the chat function, which you should be able to find on your panel there somewhere. Please ask lots of questions. The presenters will be online for the duration where they can answer those via the chat. And the presenters will also be putting their contact details on there. So if you wish to take a conversation offline with them, you can do so. And then finally, we are recording today's session, which will be made available after today. If you missed anything or you need to leave early, you can always pick up the bits that you missed. So without further ado, I'm going to hand to Will. Thanks, Will. Welcome.
Thank you, Deborah, for the introduction, and welcome everybody to this particular event. Quite excited. We're talking about regulatory compliance today. So regulatory compliance describes the goal that organizations aspire to achieve in their effort to ensure that they are aware of and take steps to comply with relevant laws, regulations, policies. Due to the increasing number of regulations and the need for operational transparency, organizations are increasingly adopting the use of consolidated and harmonized set of compliance controls. So this approach is used really to ensure that all necessary governance requirements can be met without unnecessary duplication of effort and activity from resources. And that is the Wikipedia description of regulatory compliance. So look, in general, I like it, but there is clearly no mention of technology. So what I would change it to is, due to the increasing number of regulations and the need for operational transparency, organizations are increasingly adopting the use of technology to reduce cost and increase effectiveness and efficiency. Talking about cost, so the true cost of regulatory compliance has always been a bit of a myth in the industry. Studies and researches in recent years show inconsistent numbers depending on the method used to calculate. However, what is consistent is that all the costs are significant numbers, ranging from 5% to 15% of the entire yearly revenue of a particular organization. Regulatory obligations impact countless areas, from human resources to occupational health and safety, to consumer privacy, cyber, finances, and much more. And as companies expand further around the world with their products and services, their chance of being subject to multiple and conflicting regulations increases. Regulatory compliance is a massive topic. We could be here a whole day talking about it. It's a huge topic. But when I think about the technology for regulatory compliance, I usually visualize it in a T-shaped structure. So horizontally, we're talking about more strategic but generic problems to solve, such as regulatory change, obligation management, policy management, control automation, cross-border compliance, such as operational resilience. And vertically, so these are the problems usually associated with very specific regulations, whether it's a hard regulation or a soft regulation, doesn't matter, such as Modern Slavery Act, such as the more recent design and distribution obligation. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome 5 RegTech companies that provides products and services targeting both the horizontal and the vertical problems. Without further ado, I will pass to APRA to introduce themselves and their products. Over to you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Will. Hi, I'm Yvonne, the APAC Business Lead for APX. I'm pleased to be sharing with you about the company and what we do. Our team is made up of a rare confluence of business, regulatory, and technical excellence. As a RegTech company, our goal is to transform all complex text-based regulatory rules into digital machine-readable rules, providing binary answers. We believe that professionals, whatever their job roles, should have access to easy to understand and single answers to complex regulatory questions. Next. As you know, compliance is changing dramatically. Our clients still have many manual processes in their day-to-day workflow, which lead to slow decision-making, poor client engagement, spending too much time managing regulatory compliance manually. And yet, at the same time, they want to have more growth, more revenue, less risk, and less fine. Is that possible? Next. Let me take you through to a good analogy of what today's compliance journey looks like. It's like paper maps. The rules and the legal opinions are still mostly paper-based, or some argue to say that they have digital rules. Scanning paper documents into PDF format is not what we see as digital rules because you still need to interpret it on your own. These so-called digital rules are not kept up to date in real time. You will get lost or make wrong turns with scanned paper maps on your mobile phone, since you still need to depend on someone who can read the map or the compliance manual to guide you to the right answers. Next. However, if you have a GPS, life is a bliss. I would say almost all of us here today have ditched the paper maps and depend on the GPS. APX is your GPS in the compliance world. Our rules are at your fingertips. The content is always updated and distributed in real time. Instead of days or hours, you now get your most pressing legal issues in seconds. We provide you with the binary answers, hence, interpretation has been taken care of. APX Digital Compliance Solution is designed to give anyone and everyone in the organization easy access to compliance knowledge, and mostly to bridge the gap of regulatory interpretation between business and compliance. Next. Here's an illustration of one of our use cases, our cross-border compliance. Jimmy, a Singaporean licensed wealth manager, has a potential Indian prospect, Pruti, who lives in Sydney. So Jimmy will need to consult the country manuals to find out if he can organize a video conferencing with Pruti due to the current situation. Given the multi-jurisdiction involved here, it is not going to be straightforward. Regulatory restrictions are usually difficult to understand for client-facing employees. Imagine Jimmy with a paper map from the previous analogy. He will have to consult his compliance officer on the do's and don'ts, and this will take days, if he's lucky, a few hours. However, if he uses APX, he'll be able to know the answers in a few seconds. Here's how APX can help with Jimmy. Next. We have more than 55,000 digital rules off the shelf to meet multi-jurisdiction scenarios. These dependable and up-to-date rules are delivered by world-class regulatory experts and law firms. Build once, use many. Jimmy will be able to find his answers from these rules via the browser-based app. Next. Our browser-based app is fast answers to no integration. He can use it anywhere as long as he has a browser to check his legal answers. Next. The APX platform is the compliance hub, the tool for legal and regulatory experts. Jimmy's compliance team may edit their risk appetite or add internal policies to the rule sets. The changes are captured in the audit trail. These rules are immediately available into the digital format upon approval. Next. Last but not least, our rules are easily integrated to your day-to-day workflow and any systems with our secured and lightweight API. This can be integrated into Jimmy's day-to-day workflow with the rules that they have subscribed to. Next. We have built many use cases and different rule sets over the last few years. We are constantly adding new ones. Visit our website to learn more in details of these use cases. Next. APX has also proven that we have an award-winning great solution. One of our global clients, Credit Suisse, was recognized as the best private bank for the use of RegTech globally because the solution has delivered what it promised. Our clients range from boutique financial institutions to tier 1 global banks. And last slide. Want to know more? Reach out to us and I'll be happy to share our case studies and our solution, and I'll drop my email in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. That's great. Just to remind the audiences, if you have any questions for our presenters, please use the chat function, leave in the chat, we'll get to it. I do have a question for you, Yvonne, to start with. You mentioned you have a pretty large set of rules. That's great. But what if something goes wrong? Let's say if a rule happened to be incorrect, or if there's any issue in the rule, who actually will bear the liability in this case?
Very good question. So in this case, okay, so usually we have our rules are coming up from our content partners, like the big fours, the law firms. So if it's the wrongly interpreted rules, then our content partners will be the one holding the liability. But if it's through the interpretation and it's a technology fault, then it would be APX liability.
Okay, got it. And in terms of, again, around the rules, can a client of yours use their own rules? I want to customize rules, or I completely don't want to use any APX rules, but my own rules. Is that possible?
Yes, we have many cases like this as well. I think in a big tier one banks or some financial institutions, they may have curated their rules over the years, right? So they might have their different risk appetite that is very different. So yes, we have done it so many times where we help our client to digitize their rules because we already have the template. So we just use their rules and then we help them to digitize it.
Great, thank you very much, Yvonne. If there's any question later on in the audience, I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask Fund Apps to come on stage, please?
Right. Thanks, Will. And thank you to the RegTech Association, Deborah and Alison, for having us here today. My name is Jessica, and I am a sales manager at Fund Apps in Singapore. And I look after the Asia Pacific region. I'd love to take the next 5 minutes to introduce to you what we do and how we can help add value to you. Next slide, please. Fund Apps is a cloud-based RegTech company headquartered in London with a mission to make compliance monitoring simple for the financial industry. Just like what Will mentioned, it is very crucial for companies these days to utilize technology to help them with the compliance obligations. We are founded in 2010, and we have offices in London, New York, and Singapore. And we believe in a cloud-based compliance monitoring software, and we do help our clients be more efficient and save time by eliminating the need for manual workflow with spreadsheets. Therefore, we look at our clients' compliance processes, automate them, and we currently monitor more than 13 trillion in assets for our clients. Next slide, please. These are some of the challenges that firms face while dealing with compliance monitoring requirements. Some of them might apply to you. First of all is the data quality. How do you know if the current data that you use is correct? And honestly, what is the potential impact of using incorrect data values? We do find that in recent years, firms have been charged with hefty fines from regulators for missing disclosures or filing incorrectly. Next is the rapidly changing regulatory environment, exactly to your point, Will. Unless proper control and automation is implemented for this purpose, it is a very time-consuming and manual task to do. Also, you might have complex company structures which require aggregation. And lastly, besides those thresholds alone, there are other types of data sets required for performing particularly a substantial shareholding check. Next slide. Here in Fund Apps, we offer 3 main services: shareholding disclosure, sensitive industries, and position limits monitoring through our cloud-based software. We have been seeing increased demand for our services here in the region as more and more firms look to invest globally and they are unsure of the obligations, thresholds, and limits in those jurisdictions. We help our clients be more efficient and save time by eliminating the need for manual workflow with spreadsheets. We also help them save money by reducing the need for costly legal counsel, and our clients have no need for expensive proprietary systems. Therefore, our mission is to change the manual process, minimize manual error, and fully mitigate risk for these requirements. Next slide, please. We have come a long way since 2010, and we are really proud of our journey. Today, we have clients ranging from the world's largest hedge funds and asset managers, hedge funds, banks, and insurance groups. We also have got one of the largest annuation funds, superannuation funds here in Australia, using fund apps to monitor their shareholding disclosure monitoring process. Next. We offer a managed service and have an in-house content team comprising of ex-compliance officers, lawyers, and other industry experts, all of whom now focus all of their time on working for the best, to give you the best compliance service in the industry. Their sole job is to monitor these updates and update our rules on the back of the updates. We also work with our legal provider, Allen & Overy, and regulators as well. Our content team, our experts basically, they do interpret the legal information and create rules and help our clients code those rules. Our clients then receive updated information and will be notified if there are positions to disclose to their respective regulators. Our engine automate your workflow, catching latest regulatory updates and code them in our rules engine for you so that you're always kept up to date with regards to regulatory environment updates. Next. This workflow, this chart that you're looking at over here, is a very simple workflow to show you how it works for our shareholding disclosure service, one of the three that we offer. At Fund Apps, our rule engine is always powered by the legal interpretation and guidance from AOSphere. Simply put, we help you monitor latest regulatory updates and we handle the complex coding requirements for you. So over here on this slide, you can see that first of all, you can just easily and securely upload your positions data into our platform and then have your data analyzed in a matter of minutes and be notified of any disclosures that you have to make. So simply file your disclosures with our automated, generated, and pre-populated forms. Last slide. I hope this gives you a very quick 5-minute overview of Fund Apps and how we can help you automate your compliance monitoring process. We'd love to get in touch and hear from you, and I'll also pass on my details in the chat box later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Great presentation of it. I might hit you with a question
Sure.
from Jasper from CBA. How do you ensure the trust in data? Right, this is a super important question. I'm sure for a lot of audiences here. How can customer be comfortable that the rule that you provided are complete, accurate, and also applicable to their specific business?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the question, Will. So this is, of course, a very common question that we get from our clients. What we do is that we work with AOSphere and we do work with regulators as well in order before we create our rules and code them into a rules engine. So what we look at is over here where, you can be a hedge fund in Singapore or you can be an asset manager in Australia, but if you want to look at a certain shareholding disclosure rule, for example, all of them require and have the same type of memos. So what we do is we code them into algorithms. All of our clients, currently almost 100 clients that we have globally, they all rely on this rule engine that we create. And we also have got internal regulatory teams to help answer the questions that they have. So if you think about it, 100 global clients we have, that multiplied by maybe, say, 10 people in a compliance team, you have at least 100 times 10, 1,000 pairs of eyes looking at this rules engine, which really ensures the community is brought together and bring forward, the accuracy in terms of our rules. Of course, there are multiple channels that they can come on to in terms of checking with us, how we interpret the rules, how we code those rules. We also do have a workflow in our internal system to make sure that all of them are being tested correctly, interpreted correctly. And my last point is for our team, the people that actually create the codes and codes the algorithm, they are all industry experts. They used to be, compliance officers, regulatory experts. So before they even code those rules, they already know what's, the industry knowledge, basically.
Okay, that sounds like certainly a very strong expertise you have there. But just for the sake of conversation, let's say if something did go wrong, right? Something did go wrong, and where does the liability lie?
Yep. So great question. So for us, whenever there's any regulatory updates in terms of if a regulator publishes new thresholds or new kind of interpretation, so we will get that notification and we will work with Allen & Overy in terms of the interpretation before we code them into algorithms, and then before we roll it out into our client systems, into basically the rules engine, our clients will get a preview of what exactly has changed, so different versions before they approve it and update basically their current rules engine. So until our clients are comfortable with the way that we do this interpretation, this latest basically update will not affect their system. So that way, we want to make sure that everyone are comfortable with this interpretation, and then before these latest rules are being uploaded into the system. So a quick example would be if a country changes their thresholds and we change and update our rules, all of our clients who look at this specific set of rules will also be able to look at the changes and approve them before it goes into the system. So simply put, if all of our clients are comfortable with this interpretation, we can safely say that this is accurate. And of course, the liability, just like our legal partners or anything before anything is being approved, of course, our clients have to be comfortable with it first. So we don't take any liability, but because of all the processes and procedures that we put in place, we make sure that everything is accurate before it goes on.
Great. Thanks for that. And that's pretty much one of the questions asked by Mitzi, who was a former regulator in the chat. Thank you, Mitzi, for the question there. I'm sure there'll be more discussion around this later on.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Jessica.
Thank you, Will.
Can I please ask Product Cloud to come on stage?
Yes, thank you, Will.
All yours, James.
Okay, thanks. Hi everyone, my name is James Bly. I'm from a company called Red Crew, and we created Product Cloud. Can I go to the next slide, please, Alison? Thank you. Product Cloud is the result of what we observed with working with some of our customers and some of the engagements we've had at Red Crew. And specifically what we've observed over the last couple of years is the world of product managers, particularly in financial services, is tough and getting tougher. There's increasing obligations such as the consumer data right, design and distribution obligations, particularly in the Australian region. There's increasing market velocity. The result of data being made available to the market in systematic form means that the visibility of data in the market is higher, and products are changing faster, rates are changing faster. There's a lot more competition occurring. As there's a lot more competition, there's a growing need for market intelligence, real-time information on what's actually happening in the industry around financial service products, while at the same time trying to explore new channels, new distribution forms, social media, advertising, various places, brings with it challenges of keeping your product information accurate, so that if you're presenting a proposition to a customer in one of your many channels, it's using your most current product data. And then, of course, there's the need for audit and tracking. Who's making changes to my product data? Who is updating it? Who is approving it? And that particularly plays into the executive accountability regimes and requirements of that nature. Next slide, please. So Product Cloud does the vertical and the horizontal that Will was talking about, which I thought was an excellent analogy. We focus on problems faced by product managers specifically. So for instance, we maintain portfolios, we allow for that data to be managed, take it through workflows and approvals and stage gates, get full visibility of the changes you're making for target market determinations as well as for products. But a full audited history, the ability to go back to any data set in a point in time and see on this time, on this date, what was being presented to the public, what was being presented to my internal channels. These things are really important. Next slide. On the flip side, there's being able to see what's happening outside. So this is about bringing that industry information to the product manager so that when they're actually making changes to their products, designing new products, they can see the competitive landscape. We have notifications on what occurs in the industry, how things are changing. You can tailor them like a Twitter feed by following certain competitors in the market. You can compare your products against specific portfolios in the market, and you can monitor and analyze change over time. Next slide. One of the key features, however, of Product Cloud is that it's API first. We are well aware that financial services companies already have huge numbers of legacy systems. Even the smaller mutuals have lots of existing stuff. And if we're going to be a centralized model holding data for all those different channels, we need to be able to integrate freely and easily. So we're regularly doing new integrations in the product. And we do that even if there's only one customer that needs it. Our policy is that if one customer needs it, it's almost certain that another customer will eventually need it. And we do these integrations on a regular basis. And we're able to do that because we have a fully API first architecture in the cloud for our platform. Next slide. So who is using us? At the moment, we're very focused on the second tier banks in Australia, and we've got quite a large group of brands that are using the product to go to market, and we've got new coming on all the time. And one of the key features that we've been doing with Product Cloud is that we've been working with our customers to understand what's happening in the regulatory environment, the pain points that these product managers are actually feeling. There's no point us saying we believe this is what ASIC wants or this is what the regulator wants. We're not trying to translate the regulator. We're working with our customers to see what they see on the horizon, and then we're following them and amending the product. So the product is relatively new, but we've already we're averaging a release with new features every 3 to 4 weeks in direct response to customer feedback. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. If you go to the next slide. Thank you all for your time and appreciate any questions.
Great, thanks, James. While waiting for the audience to ask questions, one thing did occur to me was that regulatory changes all the time. Let's say if there's a change in a requirement for financial product, right? Let's say DDO 2.0, how do you keep up with those changes?
Well, one of the advantages we have with Product Cloud is that an advantage for our customers is that we keep abreast of what's happening. I personally have been involved in various regimes, made contributions and helping develop some of the standards for various regimes. And we try and keep abreast of these things and keep Product Cloud up to date so that our customers don't have to worry about it. The CDR and the DDO are both examples where the initial regulatory position in market has then altered over time. ASIC with DDO is changing its position on the structure of TMDs and where they're required. The product data specifications for the consumer data right are altering and versioning over time. We keep on top of that and we make sure the Product Cloud's always up to date. So you don't have to worry about, am I compliant with the current release? And you don't have to allocate internal resource to worry about that.
Okay, thank you very much. And I guess another question did occur to me was around, you mentioned earlier, working with some of the large or medium-sized companies. They already have a lot of system existing. Obviously, you're taking an API-first approach, which is great. Do you see some challenges working with them, even with APIs?
Oh, very much so. Obviously, some of the tools and platforms they're working with are differing, shall we say, in flexibility. Particularly ledger and core banking platforms are often difficult to work with. My background personally is in architecture for the banking sector. I've worked on a number of banks, and one of the things that we offer through Product Cloud is to work with the customer and give them advice on the best way to solve a particular problem, whether that's taking the data and turning it into a PDS for composition platforms and working into SharePoint, or whether it's actually taking the data and updating a ledger to make sure the rates are included in origination. There's a lot of different questions, and we work directly with our customers to make sure they're getting the most out of the product in that way.
Thank you very much for your time, James.
Thank you, Will, and thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Can I ask the next presenter from SureStep to come on stage?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Hi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katia. I'm from SureStep Singapore. And what I'd like to do today is to take you on a journey to see how we help small and medium-sized fintech companies to cope with the burden of compliance. Compliance, as we all know, can be a difficult area to navigate, and can be so complicated that companies are often unsure of where to start. I believe our solution will be easy to set up, and it will enable our clients to quickly adopt compliance best practices. Next slide, please. Singapore is home to 45% of fintech firms in the ASEAN region. ranging in size from 5 to several thousand employees. However, regardless of the company's size, the Singapore government does not see the difference between fintechs and banks with regard to managing anti-money laundering, terrorism financing, and so on. Having a strong GRC program is a prerequisite for a license from the MS. By speaking to fintechs who are still in the early stages of applying for a license or who are currently exempt from having a license, we realized that almost none of them have a dedicated compliance or risk person on staff. Next slide, please. For the last 10 years, SureStep has been serving larger financial organizations such as MetLife, MasterCard, Conduent, helping them to run their compliance programs. Having gained all this valuable experience, we have decided to distill down our knowledge of compliance into a single solution targeting SME in the finance industry. By building a plug-and-play solution, we aim to make compliance simpler and more cost-effective. We use IBM Open Pages, the trusted GRC platform from IBM, as the foundation of the solution. Next slide, please. I'm excited to present to you Fortress, our purpose-built software as a service solution. Not only does it cover all aspects of GRC, it also provides industry-specific content for the Payment Services Act of Singapore. We support our clients on every step of the way by providing guidance throughout the adoption process. I add that at any point in time, clients are free to take their own data and migrate it to other platforms. Next, please. So what are the capabilities of Fortress? We provide fully pre-built processes covering both workflow and reporting for internal policy management, including attestation. We also provide best practices templates. Our platform ensures our capability to monitor regulatory compliance and it scans for changes. Fortress also supplies a full cycle of risk and control assessment and control testing. We support continuity management, vendor assessment, and finally, Fortress takes care of full cycle of issue and remediation. All this together with content ensures that our client starts from the best possible position and hit the ground running. Next, please. So how does it work? Next slide, please. Yeah. Fortress empowers your business by reducing time spent trying to understand compliance and regulations and their impact on business functions. Next. So the platform enables clients to consolidate all regulatory guidelines into a single repository, which can also allow them to generate their own compliance score based on the control effectiveness. Next, please. No, let's skip the next slide, please. Next. Yes, our platform also has the ability to decrease potential risks, such as fines and restrictions that may be applicable due to unwitting deviation from the regulations. Here's an example of how risk and control assessment is laid out. Next. We have proven ourselves by partnering with dozens of respected clients from Fortune 500 list, and we have developed our own project methodology that makes every project a success. Next. Finally, before I finish, today I'm also excited to introduce to you our latest development. It's a unique SaaS solution for small and medium-sized businesses who need to comply with health and safety regulations in Australia. It has all the capabilities I've been talking before, plus the latest regulations. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. That's great. One question just sprang into my mind is, you mentioned earlier that the product was targeting SME in the financial services space.
Yeah.
Will your product still be applicable or equally applicable for other industries as well?
So this is the full-scale GRC platform, Government's Risk and Compliance platform. So any company, mid-size company, can use it as the starting point to start their GRC platform.
Yeah.
So the only difference is that together with Fortress for fintechs, we supply the content. But if you are not interested in the content, you can use it as a platform, GRC platform, and it can be useful in any industry.
Right. And does the platform support customization if there is such need?
Well, it's fully customizable. The key here is that we pre-build it the way we believe is the best for small and medium-sized companies. But if needed, it could be fully customized based on needs.
Great, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, let's welcome our last presenter from Visor.
Thanks, Will, and thanks the RegTech Association for having us today. So
Hello.
Good afternoon, my name is Joanne Horgan from Visor, and over the past 20 years, we've provided subtech solutions to more than 25 regulators around the globe. So we help regulators to define, collect and validate data from their regulated entities. We've seen them move from quarterly reports in Excel to XBRL and to now collecting really granular loan level data via API. And what we see is that the volume and frequency of data is increasing all the time. Our software platform is used by over 30,000 financial institutions to submit financial risk and tax data to their regulators. And what we noticed is, you really need a regulatory reporting solution that can keep up with that pace of change. So what we're providing is that next generation of both subtech for the regulator and RegTech platforms, so that we can help the regulators to collect better data, but also reduce the burden of reporting for financial institutions. Okay, next slide, please. So some of our customers, as I mentioned, our background really is in subtech. So we've worked with about 25 regulators, the likes of Bank of Canada, the UK, Bank of England, and more recently, the Monetary Authority of Singapore and APRA in Australia. Last year in Singapore, alongside our launch of a new data collection solution for the Monetary Authority of Singapore, we launched a reporting API, which is used by 30 banks in Singapore, along with a partner. And what we do there is we collect data from their Excel, we validate it against the regulator's rules and produce the file for submission. So what we're trying to do for financial institutions really is eliminate that duplication of effort. So what we see with a lot of RegTech platforms, as people have mentioned, when the regulator publishes new rules, there's a lot of duplication where you have to code that into your own solution. With Visor, where we're the software used by the regulator, we essentially provide that same technology, the same rules engine, etc., to financial institutions, which reduces the risk and cost of erroneous data being submitted. And then typically once regulators publish something new, we can turn a regulatory change around very, very quickly by consuming what's published by the regulator. Next slide, please. Okay, so in 2019, as I mentioned, APRA selected Visor to replace their legacy D2A solution, which was their data collection solution, with a new data collection platform called APRA Connect. So we've worked with APRA over the last 2 years in developing this. We had a bit of a pause during COVID, but the APRA Connect solution is going live in September this year, starting with the superannuation data transformation that's going on at the moment. And we've worked really, really well with APRA, I think, in the last couple of years to put in place this new, more modern data collection solution. There's a test going on at the moment, a test system available. And we're now working with financial institutions to make sure that they're ready for APRA Connect. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so when we looked at, I guess traditionally coming from the subtech side, when we looked at the problems in the regulatory reporting lifecycle, we knew that we wouldn't be able to solve every problem. There is, people have mentioned the legacy systems issue that you have in a lot of financial institutions. But what we felt we can do is we can provide the same building blocks that the regulator is using to regulated entities. So we can eliminate a massive duplication of effort by using the same APIs, regulator data models and validation rules, and making those available in a regulatory reporting solution. This is when new data requirements are introduced, but also as they change over time. And we've seen that ourselves with regulators. When we started, they might typically make changes, maybe a couple of times a year. We now have one of our customers, for example, in the UK, working in an agile way. They're making changes, they're doing sprints every 2 weeks, making some regulatory changes and then releasing them. So we see the sort of pace of regulatory change increasing. And we do this not only for banks, but also insurance and funds, a superannuation industry who are typically underserved, I think, in a lot of countries for regulatory reporting. So our solution essentially consumes what the regulator publishes in terms of data models, validation rules, etc. And then it makes that available to the reporting entity for data preparation, validation and submission. We also have in our latest subtext solution, API-based submission. So again, we can provide that connectivity between the regulatory reporting solution and the regulator. Okay, next slide, please. So our goal really when launching our Advisor Reporting Centre was to afford entities the same benefits that regulators have and to try to cut down some of the duplication of effort. We provide real-time updates, so when APRA publish new reporting requirements, for example, or in another jurisdiction, the system is available or takes those changes automatically and has them available immediately. We're able to pre-validate submissions and reduce rework and frustration that happens when the regulator comes back with queries, etc., or if submissions fail plausibility checks. And obviously with the elimination of that duplication, reducing the costs. So it's a cloud-based solution. We can offer it in a relatively cost-effective way as well. The other important thing is it doesn't require brain surgery for the organization. We can integrate via RESTful APIs. So again, it's not something that has to be it can sit on top of existing systems, etc. Okay, next slide, please. So just a couple of the I guess, features of the solution. For data preparation, we have all of the APRA reporting standards and templates available out of the box. You can look at your reporting obligations well ahead of time. Track your progress in terms of data sourcing, preparation, validation, and finally submission to the regulator. Next slide, please. Another really important part is data validation and quality auditability. So all of the APRA Connect validations are included out of the box. Again, there's the ability to add new checks. So typically we would see regulators, they'll publish some rules. They also run other rules internally. So they will typically run additional plausibility checks on data, which then will come back to the regulated entity with queries. So we try to preempt some of those by putting in those plausibility checks into the platform as well. You can fix issues by refreshing from the source. You can file, upload a new file or manually adjust the data as you're going through your regulatory reporting cycle. And a really important thing, I think, especially in Australia with the CPG 235, I think, looking to become a standard, it's really important that you have a full audit trail, that you've got management over your data changes as it goes through the reporting lifecycle. Okay, next slide. Another important part, I think, is the workflow here. So making sure that you have that review and sign off of the data before it's submitted. We take the data from source systems, as I mentioned, we convert it automatically into the D2A or APRA Connect format that's required. And then once the API is available in APRA Connect, we'll allow direct submission via API as well. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to introduce our solution, I guess, to you guys today, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. We're working with a number of, we're relatively early. I said we worked in Singapore last year. We're live with our solution there, but we're working now with a number of financial institutions to get ready for APRA Connect. So please reach out if you have questions.
Thanks, Joe. Fascinating. I might quickly ask a more technical question, I guess.
Sure.
So on one of the pages, you mentioned you have the source system, then you guys creating, I guess, a data layer on top of the source system, right, to massage the data. Do you enable a two-way synchronization between these two systems, or more one-way? I.e., if you find out that the data what was modified in your layer, would you push it back to the source systems?
We're not pushing it back at the moment. What we do is we audit any change that's made, and we have a notification. But so yes, if you refresh data from the source, it will overwrite. If you've made a manual change, for example, in your report prior to submission, which people do. If you did a fresh refresh, it's going to warn you. It's going to say there's new data available. It might overwrite your, any manual edits you've made. So it is a one way, but we do have, I would say, a warning to make sure that people are aware that they're going to overwrite. Yeah. So typically the data that they might be editing in the report is an aggregated view of the data. It's not the same as the source. So it wouldn't be normal that we would send it back. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Okay, great. Since and the other thing is, since you are the only company presenting that's focusing on regulatory reporting, I'll ask you, what do you think regulatory reporting solution will look like in 5 years' time? What's your a bit longer term vision?
Longer term, I mean, I think what we see is, most financial institutions don't see value in regulatory reporting. It's just a cost, right? So I think there's probably one of two ways it will go. Either it becomes much more a regulator. I don't say utility is probably the wrong word, but I've that there's a potential there where you will just have a more of a utility solution with APIs made available from regulators, for example, and that type of, I guess, tighter integration between the reporting from the regulated entity to the regulator. We've seen even that there could be pull of data, for example. I think that's maybe a little bit that's maybe a regulator's idea. I'm not sure financial institutions would like that so much, but I think the regulator providing more technology and more sort of data standards and technology solutions will be what I see in the future, definitely. I think. I think the other way it can go is regulatory reporting, and the data that's being provided is actually it's getting more granular, and there is value in that data. The type of data that regulators are collecting now, they're looking at collecting sort of loan level data, etc. So, as I see that maybe the standards that the financial institutions are using come closer to the standards that the regulators want to collect, it should be a more efficient process, and potentially regulatory reporting. There's potential for I think RegTech providers to provide more insights on the data that's being reported, and maybe give more value in terms of analysis on that data, etc. So either it's going to become sort of utility maybe and quite low cost, or where you still, if we don't have that straight through processing of data from firm to regulator, if it's still a little bit of a two-step process, then I think RegTech will need to be providing more value rather than just reporting data.
A great point. I completely agree to that. Some of my experience, we see the data with the best quality within organization are often the ones that is regulation related or regulatory requirement related data.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Just one other thing I probably see as well. A few of the others have mentioned this. I think there are a lot of RegTech solutions doing different bits of the puzzle, and a lot of sort of API connectivity. I can see maybe, probably more and more RegTechs working together and maybe connecting to provide a holistic solution. So,
excellent. I'll hit you with the last question from Mitzi Bolton. Does Visor 2 have value where regulatory requirements are outcome based rather than time based? For example, requirements to not do X.
So is this more? I'm struggling to understand that a little bit. So more sort of rules, principles based regulation. I'm guessing that's what's being asked there. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, our focus really is on the I guess the more financial reporting, if you like, and risk reporting of data. I think. Yeah, maybe Mitzi can clarify there what exactly has been asked. Thanks. But at the moment, the tool is really focused on I would say, the kind of more rules-based regulations and the collection of data. Yeah. It is possible that we'd look at. I mean, I do see one of the things that's been talked about quite a lot is how do regulators codify their regulations and codify what they're asking for. But I still see that as being quite a bit away, I think, because legal speak is typically quite difficult to put into code at the moment.
Fair enough. Thank you. Look, thank you very much, I'm sure you will leave your detail and have a conversation with Mitzi
Yes,
offline. I might close off here and send it to you, Deborah, to finish the day for us.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Will. Nice to see you, Joanne. I didn't get to see you earlier, so lovely to see you. And thank you for getting up early in Ireland to join us. And thank you to everybody. That was a really great session, and everybody kept to time, which is excellent. But also there was lots of good conversations and just, you know, insights from the audience and questions and things like that. So we want to encourage this as much as possible. And, you know, I think Joanne has just touched on something, and perhaps there's a comment on the thread as well about, you know, the ability for RegTechs to actually work with one another. And so that's another great benefit of these things here. It's not just to connect buyers and sellers, but it's also to get a really good understanding of the landscape and look for potential opportunities between one another. So that being said, I will do a little bit of a wrap up. Just to let you know, I'll stay on the line for a few minutes after we finish up today. If you want to stay on and say hi, I'll stay on for a few minutes. But Alison's done this lovely slide, and I should go no further without thanking Alison. There's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes to make these as seamless as they appear to everyone else. So thank you very much, Alison, for everything that you do. And she's put together this lovely slide here, which is telling you a little bit about some of our programs coming up. They'll all, we'll send them all out by email. They're usually on the homepage of our website as well if you're looking for them. Here is our wonderful map. I just published this on LinkedIn yesterday, the most up-to-date version, and we've got something like 9,000 views of it already. If you're a member of the association, please share this widely. It's creating a lot of excitement around the world in the work that we're doing, which is fantastic. So I just wanted to show you all that before we finish. Is that the last slide? Oh, there we go. And if you're not a member, there's the URL. You can go on and check it out or get in touch with us and we can talk you through. And earlier I mentioned the whole idea and the concept about us doing in-house programs for the regulated entities. We're already starting. We're taking lots of inquiries. So if you are interested in doing that, please do get in touch with us and we'd love to have a talk to you about it. Congratulations, everybody. This is our first RegTech Edge No Borders for the year. We're about to kick off a massive number of them and this was the first one. So thank you so much and I'll wrap it up there and I'll stay on the line for a few minutes. If you want to hang back and say hello, you can put your camera on and your mic on and we'll have a chat. Thanks very much, everybody. I'll bring proceedings to a formal close. Thanks.